Hello, Lizzie. My name's Tom, and I'm one of those Catholics who have walked out of Mass after receiving communion. Welcome to ChurchVid TV. My name is Tom, and I make videos for people in the church who just feel lost, bored, annoyed, angry, for those who feel alone. I've been a cradle Catholic all my life, and I've felt all of those emotions. And my desire is for a community where people don't feel alone, to want to grow in their relationship with Jesus Christ. For today's video, I'm making a response to Lizzie Answers, who made a video entitled Why I Still Hate the Catholic Church. So I watched your video recently. I have to say, a lot of what you said about what frustrates you about the Catholic Church, I share a similar opinion. However, as I watched your video, I really had to smile because I was like, oh my gosh, if I was in college and YouTube was a thing and I could be a YouTuber, this is the exact video that I would make. Give you a little bit of background about who I am and where I'm coming from. I grew up a cradle Catholic. Growing up, our church didn't have amazing community, but it was a small town. I went to the Catholic school. I was an altar server at church, so church was familiar to me. I wouldn't necessarily say it was home or like my main community, but most of my friends came out of the school, and so I wouldn't say that we had a faith-based community, but rather it was more of a school-based community. And our school wasn't like uber Catholic or anything like that. So church was something my family always just went to on Sunday. My dad didn't always go. I remember fighting my mom all the time about it, and it's just something that we always did. So since I didn't want to be bored at Mass, I became an altar server so I would have something to do. Then I went into high school, and early on in high school, my freshman year, my father passed away. And that was a time where my faith really changed. It was a time where I turned to God and said, you can be my father now. And in doing that, I started going to youth group more often. I went to a Steubenville youth conference that really changed my faith. And that's where I started taking my faith a lot more seriously. However, even in high school, while my faith was the center of my life, it wasn't necessarily part of my community, if that makes sense. Going into college, however, I found like-minded people who were passionate about their faith, and I really discovered the idea of a faith-based community. And I agree that that's the best way to experience the love of Jesus Christ, through community and in the church. But I will say that being a part of a community and being that young in college, it also made me look at other people who didn't have the community or who didn't take the faith seriously. It made me look down on them. And I can say that now in retrospect, whereas when I was in my 20s and I looked at these people and I would say things, I was just trying to speak love to them or speak truth to them. That's how I would have put it. And yes, I was doing it, and my heart was that they would come closer to the church and know Jesus Christ, but I didn't understand where people were coming from. Fast forward about 5 years, my family and I moved to Florida, and so we left that great church community that we had, and we came to a brand new one. And what's really interesting about the brand new one, it was very much not theology or spirituality based, it was more community based. And so while I thought some of the things that they did at church was weird, like they didn't kneel during the consecration, there was no doubting that the Spirit was moving through the community, that these people really loved each other and loved their faith community, and that's what brought them closer to Jesus Christ. Fast forward another few years, I changed parishes where the community was, I'd say, average, and I got hurt by the church. I've worked for the church pretty much my entire adult life until recently. And it was the leadership of the church that really scarred me in terms of my faith. I remember being angry with God, being hurt, saying things like, God, I just want to bring people closer to you, but it feels like the church is just rejecting me and putting me down. And so I will tell you that in the past year, since being hurt by the church, I have walked out of church after communion. I've even walked out of church before communion. I spent the last Easter Sunday Mass fuming in the back of the church, and I left about halfway through. I was so mad. And I share that with you because I want you to understand that when people do the things that they do, there's always a story behind it. You know, I'm a father now of 5 children, and when my wife and I go to church, it's like herding cats. It's so exhausting. I remember going to church in my 20s, and I was by myself, or I was with my wife, and I could really enter into that holy mystery of the marriage supper of the Lamb, and it was beautiful. But to be honest, for the past few years, church has been a struggle. I come to church tired, and I think a lot of people come to church tired. We're tired of family. We're tired of our jobs. We're tired of the BS we feel like we see at the church. The church is just whatever. And it's not enough to say to someone, well, because it's Jesus and it's the liturgy and we should be all about it. People don't get that. Or if they do, like me, sometimes that's not enough. And while I take responsibility for my decision, it's frustrating when people will come up and judge you for leaving early when they don't even know your story. How could you know that I was hurt by the church? How could you know that I spent the entire Mass fuming because I know how beautiful the liturgy could be and the music pissed me off because it was just crappy? Or I know there's a priest scandal going on, and for the past 3 weeks the homilies have said nothing about what the church is going to do, or that they're even sorry other than reading a letter from the bishop. You can't know that. How do you know that I'm not a mom who's hurting because her husband refuses to go to Mass and is waiting for her to get home so that they can go to breakfast or something? How do you know what someone's going through unless you accompany them and you walk with them? And I think that's what's at the heart of your video, that you're challenging Catholics towards community so that we can know what's going on with one another and we can walk with one another and accompany one another as we grow closer to Christ. But I wanted to make a video responding to some of the things you said because I'm one of the people that refuses to talk to other people. I'm one of the people that doesn't care about the community of Jesus Christ. And in reality, I do care. And in the reality, I do want somebody to talk to me. But I'm not in a place right now to go out and seek that out. I'm hurting, I'm broken, I'm tired, and I feel like I wish there was someone in the church that would reach out to me. But instead, people either ignore me or people yell at me and they judge me, and that's a really tough place to be in. I want to thank you for your video, Lizzie, because I think it really calls Catholics to be accountable. I hope that this video can accompany your video so that people understand where other people are coming from. I feel like people come to church because they're longing for something. Maybe they don't know it. Maybe they're doing it out of ritual, like you said. But I think deep down inside, they're hoping for something to happen at church. They're hoping for a homily to speak to them. They're hoping for the music to be beautiful. They're hoping to be transformed by Christ. They're hoping that somebody in the community cares about them enough to say hello and meet them where they're at. The other thing I would say is, I know you mentioned welcoming committees and stuff like that, and that we're called to Christ to talk to people, but everybody communicates differently. I know you mentioned that you love the welcoming committee, and I can tell you for one, I hate when the priest says turn to one another and shake hands. I think what it comes down to is people are longing for authentic community, and authentic community can be fostered by committees and projects and programs, but ultimately it's a people thing. I don't think that you still hate the Catholic Church. I think a more appropriate title might have been why people in the Catholic Church still frustrate the hell out of me. That's what I would call my video if I was making something like that, because it's true. People in the church drive me crazy. But then I realized I'm one of those people in the church, and I probably drive some people crazy as well. And so that gives me hope. That means that if I can do something in my own life to help impact another person and lead them closer to Christ, then perhaps that would encourage somebody else to transform their own life. See, it all comes down to personal holiness. And from that personal holiness, I believe God's gonna put people in your life that He wants you to talk to, that He wants you to form community with. You mentioned you have 15 to 20 small group people. That's awesome. And then from there, as those people grow in holiness, God will put people in their lives to transform. And so you see it kind of spreads out. The other thing I would say is this idea of a welcoming atmosphere really stems from leadership. I've worked for a number of pastors, and I can tell you that the great communities are formed by pastors who either are very outgoing and community focused themselves, or they empower those people who are outgoing and passionate about community to create that community. It takes leadership, and sadly, I would say right now, a lot of parishes are lacking leadership. So again, Lizzie, thank you for your video. I hope that this video can kind of shed some light on where some people are at. Like, I'm just a husband, a father who wants a relationship with Jesus Christ and wants community that you're talking about. But after watching your video, I felt more judged than encouraged. I felt like somebody was making a judgment about me without knowing me. I felt like what you said, I've said in the past, and not that I'm sorry, because you're speaking truth, and what you're saying has truth and goodness in it, but I would encourage you that if you truly desire for people to grow into community, and you truly desire for people to come to know Jesus Christ, then you start by getting to know them individually, and you start empowering others to invest in relationships with individuals and individual families. And from there, community will grow. That you start by praying for Jesus to put people into your life that he wants you to grow in community with. Thank you again, Lizzie, for this video, for making it, for calling out Catholics to grow deeper in our relationship with Christ so that we can reach out and build community with others who desire the same thing. I really appreciate what you're doing, and I can't wait to look forward to your next video. God bless. Thanks a lot, guys, for checking out this video. Please hit the subscribe button, and I'd really appreciate if you go and check out my Patreon page. I want to continue making videos like this, and I really see it as a ministry, and I would love if you would partner with me in that journey so that I can make these videos and also provide a little bit for my family on the side. Thanks a lot, and God bless. Peace.